My name is Christy Busby, and you are about to listen to the next episode of my podcast called F.A.T.E, From Atheism to Enlightenment. So come on in, join me. We're going to talk about it all, from atheism to enlightenment. Alrighty, guys, here we go. Get ready, and welcome to your F.A.T.E. Welcome, everyone, to the next episode of F.A.T.E. How's everybody doing today? On today's episode, we're talking all things astrology, gang. I have a wonderful woman on. Her name is Carmen Turner-Schott. She has a book out along with her co-author, Bernie Ashman, who couldn't join us today, but we have Carmen here to tell us all about it. It's called Astrology's Magical Nodes of the Moon, Releasing the Past and Embracing Your Future. Carmen, welcome to your F.A.T.E, my friend. How you doing today?
Good. Thanks for having me on your show.
Thank you for joining me. Thank you for taking the time. I read the book yesterday, and I've always been big into astrology. I've always believed in astrology, but I didn't really realize how much it really affects your whole life and what you're doing here and what you're going to experience. I didn't quite understand how impactful the planets, where you were born, what node you're like. It's amazing. But let's start from the beginning.
Sure.
And let's talk a little bit about what led you to this path, to astrology. How did you get here to this book, to this place?
Sure. Well, it all kind of started when I was young. I was always kind of different than everyone in my family, and I was very sensitive. You know, I would have very vivid dreams. I would sleepwalk. I would wake my mother up because I was afraid there were people in my room, and I would sense that I wasn't alone. I always had to have a nightlight on. I was afraid of the dark. I was just very, very imaginative and just kind of empath, but I didn't know what that was. So I was raised in the Midwest in a very, Baptist kind of area, and these mystical things were not ever taught to me. I just was naturally interested in angels and all these things. But when astrology really became my outlet was when I was in high school. I had an experience with a glowing ball of light in my doorway. And I came home from playing basketball one night. Yeah. And I was a basketball player. I came home and had my door open with my light like I always do. And my parents had a very small house. So my parents' room was across the hall from mine. And then I had a bathroom I could see into from my bed. And then my brother's room was on the other side. And my dad and brother were on a fishing trip. So my mom and I were home alone. I had a great basketball game. I was feeling good, went to bed as normal. Kind of woke up in the night, maybe around midnight, and I looked at my doorway and there was a glowing orb. I call it an orb. And it was water translucent, like yellow, white, just floating in my doorway. It was bigger than a softball. And I went to try to yell, and it's like it took my voice. I had no voice. I was frozen. I couldn't move. I couldn't scream. I couldn't do anything. The only thing I had control of was my mind. And so I kept saying, please don't have it in my room. Please, and I went through this whole thing because I was 16 years old and I was terrified, right? And so at the time, now I hit myself. I wish it would have let me go over to it, but I was frozen. I mean, it's like it paralyzed me or something. And it never came in. It would take off and come float right back. And for hours, I laid there watching it. And then it's like it released me. And I yelled, Mom, and my mother, I'm like, do you see it? We're yelling across the hall. She said, yes. So for the first time, my mother saw something unexplained that I had seen, because they always just said, it's your imagination, go back to bed. But that changed my life. And so after that happened, that same year, around the same time, probably maybe a couple months later, I had a really good friend that was accidentally shot and killed. And it was a very bad accident. These boys, had this gun and they thought there were no bullets in it. It was just a freak thing. She was in the front seat of the car. They didn't know the boys had a gun, and it accidentally went off. And so that was the first person I ever knew that died. And she had just stayed the night at my house the night before this all happened. And so that changed my life as well that year. And so I started, wanting to know, like, why am I here on this earth? What is the purpose of life? And what happens after I die? I had all these questions. And I always was interested in angels and aliens. And I always kind of was into those things or wondered anyway. But this led me to go to a little mystical bookstore in St. Louis. And I wanted to learn more about why I was different, because no one in my family was like me. And I went and I found this astrology book. And I didn't know what astrology was. And I started studying and reading it. And I did my chart, and in those days, you had to do it by hand. We didn't have computers and all this cool it was like 1993, And so I was doing this by hand, and I started looking up my placements, like my sun and my moon and everything. And it was like everything it explained was my experiences, unexplained psychic experiences, seeing ghosts, spirits, dreams, dreaming of the future. It was like my chart. I'm like, this is why I'm like I am. And so it really just validated my personality and my life experience. And I'm like, I want to learn more about this. It became my obsession. And I just studied and I taught myself. And I was I majors in psychology, and I wanted to be a social worker. So I was in graduate school, undergrad, and I would do charts for fun. I would meet people in college at, St. Louis Bread Company, do their birth chart. They would cry, how do you know this? It's so accurate. And I realized this is a powerful tool of self-awareness that can help people heal. And I started realizing when I did a chart, someone would heal things that would maybe take 10, 12 sessions of therapy to heal. It was that quick. And I thought, I want to bring this into my work as a counselor. And so at the time I was like 19, 20, in graduate school. I got my master's in social work, and it became my side job. So I wrote articles. I got a little website. I did classes, did readings for people my whole life, really since I was 19. But I always had a normal job as a counselor and the practical world. So I've always done both, and I still do. And I just started researching all these things and learning more. Thousands of people from all over the world, find me. I have Facebook astrology groups, and this has just been my passion. And I started really wanting to publish books a few years ago. Finally got my chance to publish some other books. And then Bernie, who wrote this book with me, he was a mentor of mine. He's in my groups, and he's like, let's write a book together. He's also an author, has other astrology books as well. And we wrote this little book together because I realized that the nodes of the moon are the most important thing in your birth chart. And no one told me that. I kind of learned that along the way, in my journey.
I had never even heard of the term nodes of the moon when it came to anything related to astrology before. So it was a brand new term, and I'm certain that it's going to be a brand new term for many of the people who are listening to the podcast, because it was new information across the board for me. So going back to your glowing bulb story, because that fascinates me in a big way. And have you throughout your life had more experiences like that? Have you been in touch with the ability to kind of see the other side, or be in contact with passed over loved ones? Or are you sort of a medium type person that just has a natural ability?
Yes, I realized a lot of it was in the chart. And I started doing research that people that have planets in the 12th and 8th houses specifically, that's kind of my big research. I call them phoenixes and angels. Those people always have these unexplained spiritual abilities. So when you have planets in those two areas of life, or a lot of Pisces or Scorpio energy, because they rule those two houses, in Cancer, 4th house as well, the water houses, the water sign, you usually have some type of ability. Now, the 8th house is a connection to death. It's the house of sexuality, death, rebirth, healing, transformation. And so I have a lot of planets there in my birth chart. I have a stellium, the sun, the moon, the Jupiter, Chiron. And so I realized this is why I kind of dream about death. So my thing is I'll dream things and then it'll happen. I dreamed about both my grandmothers before they died, and they did the next day. And I was at peace with it because it's hard to explain. It's like I knew when I woke up that they were telling me something, and I kept telling my dad to call his mother, and I said something's wrong. So, and she died in her sleep the next day. So I knew because she came in my dream and was trying to tell me something I couldn't hear her. And I kind of know now when I dream something, when it's a real message of something to come, or if it's just symbolic. I'm very into dream interpretation. But the orbs, now I always get asked this. I've only seen the orbs, those kind of orbs, 3 times in my life, ever. And I didn't try to do it. And it was in my younger days. I have not seen orbs, so to speak, since. Now I see flashes of light out of the corner of my eye, like something, that kind of thing. And I'll look and I'll know something's there. But those orbs, that was unique. And I had it happen again that same year that I saw the one, when I was playing basketball. And, and I know most people think it's crazy, but I know what I saw. We were playing basketball. It was a big game. And if we won, we went to state. And I was a 3-point shooter. And I was out there, we were getting beat. It was my senior year. I was getting recruited to play basketball in college, like Division III. I mean, it wasn't that big a deal,
Oh, wow.
Not D1 or anything, but I wasn't Caitlin Clark, or anything like that. But, I could shoot 3-pointers. And I went ahead and, my coach, I just was sitting on the bench and we were getting beat by like 20 points. It was like the third quarter. And I felt like this hand on my shoulder, and it was like, go in and shoot. Like this voice, like I just felt this like presence. And right about that time, my coach yelled down, Carmen, come here. She goes, go in and shoot. That's what she told me. And so as soon as I got in, I got the ball and I shot and hit a 3-pointer, because they were in a zone defense. And then the game changed. The energy changed that night. And then I started passing the other girl. She scored. I hit another 3-pointer. Then they throw the ball to me under my own basket and I scored. The whole game just started getting crazy. And we came back and we were down 2 points. And it was like 30 seconds. I got a 3-pointer, got fouled. So I got some 3 throws. So I made when I was getting ready to shoot the 3 throws, everybody was screaming, yelling. We had police at the doors because it was the news was there, the cameras, everything. And they were screaming. I just saw these hands and everything. I couldn't feel my legs. It was like I wasn't in my body. And I just felt like I knew I don't feel my legs. What is going on? And he hands me the ball and I made it. I shot and made it. And then I had one. And as I got ready to shoot the second shot, I saw 3 orbs go across the backboard. Distinct like orbs. And I made it. I made the shot. We won. The timer, they couldn't get the ball. We won. I got a news interview. It was like one of the best nights of my life. Okay. Still to this day. But anyway, I saw the orbs that night. Hey, yeah.
That is an incredible story. I love that story.
I can't,
do you spirit guides? Your spirit, your
I think so.
What the orbs are like?
I think they were spirits or some type of entities that were helping me. I think that they were helping me make my shots. I know it sounds weird because I had a really tough year with losing my friend and with things with basketball, honestly, getting benched, not playing like I wanted to, and just things like that with the coach and things like that. You're in a small town, there's politics, and there was a lot of heartache with that. I knew I could shoot, and I knew that, but it was, lots of people wanting to play, not enough, 5 people can only be on the court once. So it was that kind of competition that, and my parents didn't know anything about sports. They weren't really involved with all that like the other parents. So it was just kind of hard for me. And so that night, though, made up for all of it. It was like that night, my mother, she came because she had a lot of anger about some things with my basketball stuff. And she said that she forgave everything and let it go that night because she knew there was something weird about it too, because apparently, now I don't remember doing this, but my coach and them were kind of yelling at me like, what was wrong with you out there? Like, you were looking over here waving at us. They said I was like grinning and acting weird at the 3-throw line. I don't remember that. All I know is I wasn't in my body. I didn't feel my legs. I didn't feel that I wasn't even standing there. I can't even explain it. So I think that they were guides, or, they were there to help me. Because the first time I only saw the one in my doorway. Now this was 3. Now, let me rewind a couple years. About 2 years later, had a really bad breakup. Had a lot of, I would say a little bit of trauma, emotional trauma from a guy that I really loved, but he didn't treat me good. Let me just say, lessons learned. And I couldn't get over it. I couldn't get over this thing, right? And it's like I was stuck in the past. And that's my node. So that's my South Node Taurus. I couldn't release the past. That's my learning. Okay. And so I'm supposed to let things die and be reborn and just cut people off when they hurt you. And I couldn't do that. I'd hold on to things. And so, now I'm in my North Node Scorpio more, and I'm working towards it, but I couldn't let it go. And it was really causing me some problems. And my mother wanted me to come to this church. It was a Baptist church. And I did not like going there because I felt like they were judgmental. And I thought that push it on my brother and me. And I didn't like that. And I knew I was spiritual in my heart. And to me, I believed in God, but it wasn't that kind of a belief system. And so I was always different. And my mother made me go because my father was getting baptized that day as an adult.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So what happened was I fought my mother. I'm like, I'm not going. We got a big argument. She said, well, you're taking your car from you. And I was like 19 or something. And I was back from college, like on the summer break or something. And she made me go, and I was in my basketball clothes. I'm like, I don't even have my normal, and I was in my basketball clothes and sweaty and everything. And she made me go. I'm sitting there, and there's people like telling my brother, you need to get baptized. You're like kind of scared. And he was scared. And I was 6 years older. I'm like, just leave him alone. This is what I said to him. And as I'm sitting there, I mean, this is knowing me, like, this is not normal for me to have this happen. So I'm sitting there and I'm looking up at the preacher, and I see 3 orbs go back across where the baptismal water thing is, right? And I look, and it's like all of a sudden some energy just hit me like hard. And I start bawling, like emotional, like I didn't know what the hell was going on. I stood up. I heard this voice inside, get up and go up to the front. Like, and I'm like, no, like, and I just got up. I stood up, and my mother, and the place is packed. And my mother's like, look at me like, what are you doing? Because I didn't want to be there, right? I mean, I just fought her and was grounded and everything else. And I just get up, and I'm like, I walk up to the middle of right to the preacher. He's like, I said, I'm meant to be baptized today. It was like this, and I just knew. And I'm like, I was like, I know I'm meant to. And he's like, okay, go get on the wall. So I go stand on the wall, and this is the creepy part. When I was in there, somebody had to give me a change of clothes, and I was in there in this room alone, and I felt like someone was with me. I know there was someone in the room with me. And I talk out loud. I'm like, I don't know why you want me to do this, but I'm going to do it. That's what I said. And it was so intense. Like, and so my dad went before me, and then, they dipped him. And then when I went, so they were taking pictures, right? This is the cool part. I still have this picture to this day. I need to find it. So I guess somebody took a picture from a certain angle, of my father, and then I went in. And that summer, I was really close with my mother's mother, my maternal grandmother, and she was spiritual. She dreamed things too. She was more open. She didn't really talk about a lot, but she was an empath. She was a Cancer sun sign, very intuitive. And I was looking for something at my parents' house, and I found the pictures in this book of when we got baptized. And I never thought to look at it. And I'm looking at it, and I'm like, oh my God, it looked like there were hands in the water like this with ruffles, leaves, along the side of the glass in my picture. Now, when I looked at my dad's, it wasn't in there. It was not in there. I was like, what the heck? Because it was the same angle, same thing. I got the picture. I took it to my grandma. I'm like, Grandma, look, do you see something in the water? Do you see anything? She's like, oh my gosh, there's hands in there. So she said she saw it. And then my grandfather, they got a magnifying glass. So it looks, the way the light hit it, it looks like these two, it was just like this, like two hands in the wrestles, like an arm. And
It's incredible.
and after that, I believe, I consider myself a Christian mystic because I do believe in things that aren't in the basic Bible. I believe in reincarnation. I believe that Jesus taught it. I believe there's ancient teachings that we didn't get access to. I've always known that there's more to the things. And then when I started realizing that astrology is in the Bible, it's hidden throughout the entire Bible. And I started teaching a class about that and seeing the things in the symbols. I'm like, there's more to this. There's more to all of this. And so I consider myself, I love, Jesus and Buddha, their teachings are similar, but I will say I'm a Christian mystic, but I'm a very open-minded, eccentric Christian. Let me just say it.
I mean, I was going to ask you the very next question because I kind of grew up in that hellfire, brimstone, judgmental, Midwest, small town, going to church 3 times a week, and I rejected it myself. Yeah. I never grew up having any experiences. I never grew up with a sense of spirituality. It was only in my adult years, well into adult years, that I had a health crisis, and I started opening up to different ways of healing my body and energy healing, and that opened up to spirituality. But I was and considered myself an atheist for most of my life. I rejected all of it because something within me said, that doesn't feel right. It doesn't, I was taught in my religion, I grew up Church of Christ, that we were the only ones that were going to go to heaven, that we were the only ones that knew God, and everybody else is going to go to hell. And, we shouldn't feel sorry for them. And I was like,
God.
Does it make sense to me?
It's not a loving kind of God.
That's not love. No. And it was a very judgmental, very fear-based, very, if you did not align with what they were thinking, you were ostracized. My mother went through my grandmother, my maternal mother, was very hellfire, brimstone, very religious, very hard on my mom. And so my mom kind of sheltered us from that. She took us to church. She felt very obligated to take us to church, and she did it primarily for her parents. I don't think she ever did it really for herself. However, she did shelter us to a certain extent and did not have the amount of control, judgment. And I always had a very open relationship with my mother, and my mother never was able to have an open relationship with my grandmother, her mother, because of religion, because there was so much judgment and so much pressure to be perfect, to be godly, not do things. And it's a terrible way to be raised, to live your life, to raised in. So I love that you say Christian mystic and that you're minded. And I do, I absolutely also believe that there was a Jesus, that he was here to teach us how to love, to expand our minds, our consciousness, to allow us to understand that we are more than this physical body. And I think it has much less to do with control and dogma and do this or you're going to hell, and much more about love and embody that. So,
the golden rule. The two things he taught and rule.
Exactly right.
Love others as you love yourself. Treat others as you want to be treated. It's like, and the basic principle of Christianity, and a lot of people aren't able to even do that. And they get into the beliefs like they have to. It's about just going to church. And he even said, "Go in your closet alone and pray to me alone." Like, you don't have to go to church.
Jesus never had a church. No. Jesus never had a church. He never had a building. No. He never had anything like that. It is an unnecessary, the Bible. I talk a lot about a religion on this podcast. It is called From Atheism to Enlightenment. So I talk about religion. I try to be as respectful as possible to everyone, because everyone has their own belief system. Everyone has their own interpretation. But I also try to speak my truth as much as I can about how I felt about coming up in the church and how I feel about organized religion in general. And I don't feel like organized religion is here to bring us together. I don't feel like it is here to be something that is peaceful. And, a lot of it is man-made and based on control and money and power. And it has nothing to do with the basic tenets of the golden rule, which exists in every single religion out there. The golden rule. Yeah. That is the one tenet that exists. It is a running thread wherever you seek any kind of religious knowledge. It is, you will find that. Yeah. Do unto others as you would have done to you.
Yes. Yes. I love it. I love it. See, you're Aquarius. So you're meant to question authority. You're meant to question tradition. You're meant to question why is it this way? And you're meant to be kind of awaken the non-traditional things. Like just because there's traditional authority and stuff, you wanna question that, but that doesn't make sense. You're logical, you're rational. And your moon is also in Aquarius, I'm looking, and your Mercury. So you're a free spirit, and you are very very imaginative, very creative person, and very much a free spirit, independent seeker of knowledge,
That's exactly what I've been. I have been from my poor parents who tried to raise me, and I never would listen to them. Throughout my entire life, I have never, ever been one to want to be told what to do. I never liked authority. I always wanted to be free flowing and doing and thinking whatever I want. And I was never been afraid of going against somebody else's opinion or the flock. I was always completely comfortable going against what everybody else was doing. And I never really have been bothered about what other people's opinions are of me. I've always been nonplussed. Like, yeah, whatever. I always, really did dance to my own drum song most of my life. I really do. And I am somebody that questions everything. I don't like tradition. I don't think everything has to be a certain way. And, my mainstream, I have no real mainstream way of thinking. I really, truly am an independent thinker.
I love it.
I'm not a go along to get along girl. Let's get back into astrology here. Why don't we talk about, let's define nodes of moon. What are nodes of moon? How does that relate to our charts, astrology?
Yeah.
Take it away.
So just to make it a little easy, for the audience that maybe doesn't know astrology still, if you imagine on your date, time, place of birth, if you're looking up at the sky at that moment in time, we have the 10 major planets and we have 12 zodiac signs. So all the planets are in a certain sign when you're born, and then a certain area of the sky, which astrologers break into 12 sections like a pie. So it's like you take a picture of the sky at the moment, place, time, and date of your birth, and we put it on a piece of paper. And it looks like a wheel, and it's got 12 sections like a pie. Those are the houses. Each house rules a different area of life. We have the sun, we have the moon, we have Mercury, Mars. All those planets are going to be in a certain house and a certain sign. And that's what we call your birth chart, your natal chart, which is the map of your soul. It doesn't change. And that's why knowing your time of birth is so important. So in astrology, there's something called the nodes of the moon. And what that is, it's a calculation in space that astrologers use based on the cycles of the moon. The moon in your chart, the moon moves through each sign every 2 to 3 days through the sky. Astronomy, it's quick. And so every 2 to 3 days, and then we have the new moon, the quarter moon, the full moon, every month that affects our emotion. And so this is an astrological, mathematical point in the sky that astrologers realized in ancient times that you could calculate based on the moon, your soul mission, which is looks like headphones. It's like these headphones like you're wearing with top, and that's your north node. That's your soul mission this lifetime. And then the south node is upside down headphones, and its symbol. Those are the symbols. And so in the sky, the nodal point of your map, when we take that picture, will be in a certain sign, one of the zodiac signs in a certain house. And so, for instance, for me, I'm a south node Taurus in the 9th house and a north node Scorpio in the 3rd house. You're a south node Cancer in the 9th and a north node Capricorn in the 3rd house. So you and I both have a similar mission in the same area of life that we're supposed to do, which is talking to people, teaching people, communicating, radio, podcast, all this stuff, spiritual knowledge, because we both have mastered the 9th house, which is all about religion, philosophy, meditation, travel, foreign culture, foreign countries, different languages. So we've already been a learner. We've studied. Now we're teaching people through talking, short journeys, writing, communication, anything radio, anything that's communication. And so when I saw your nodes, I'm like, you're meant to be doing a podcast or talking about these spiritual, mystical subjects because it's your node. It's your node.
It's fascinating that you tell me that because I am a new podcaster. I haven't been doing this very long, but I can't tell you, Carmen, how the universe has just started supporting me in this journey beyond anything I could have imagined.
Yes.
And it makes so much sense to me that you would tell me that because, for instance, the level of guests that I'm getting without just meeting people or somebody like Gavin was like, you're wonderful. I would love to give you guests. Would you be open to that? And I was like, well,
yeah.
Yes, I am open
He's
to that.
the best
ever.
He's amazing. I love Gavin.
He had given me guests that, like you, that had incredible stories that are just so interesting, that are going to be able to open people's minds in a way that they had never even thought about before. And I feel like I'm putting on a coat that I should have been wearing my entire life. I do.
Absolutely.
I have been enjoying.
You're meant to do this. You're getting in your soul mission. And this is your soul mission is the 3rd house, which is the house of communication, the house of radio, podcasting, knowledge, teaching people, talking about what you like, networking, all these things, and writing. A lot of people, publishing industry, anything with communication is 3rd house. And so when I go on these podcasts, a lot of podcasters have the 3rd and 9th house nodes like me and you do. Now, I write. That's kind of my thing. Now, I do have a astrology show on Bold Brave TV that I analyze charts and stuff. So I'm on a show too, and it's not really a podcast, but I go on live. It's on their YouTube and stuff. It's a year thing I'm doing, but I've done a BBS podcast before on astrology. But I'm meant to write. That's kind of you got your outlet, and the biggest thing for you is you have the nodes of family karma. Okay.
Oh,
yes. So does that what resonate with you a little bit?
Nodes of family karma. Like, what exactly does that mean? What does that mean?
When someone has the Cancer South Node or North Node Capricorn or vice versa, you feel a little bit responsible to take care of your mother, your father, your parents. Like there's a sense of responsibility that you have to be the one to take care of them if they're sick or financially or when they get older, or you might be the one that they come to ask for advice or help. Even if you have other siblings, you may be the one. Now, you may be the oldest, you may be the youngest, it doesn't matter. As you get older, there's always some type of karma with your parents and with your childhood and with your roots. And that karma gets you into your soul mission because you learned something from your family that helped you get to where you were. And so I would say, just looking at your node in past lives, you were like me. We traveled the world. We were adventurous explorers. We learned, we studied all these different religions and philosophies and beliefs and all these things. And you were very intuitive and empathic and very nurturing type of person, because that's Cancer. And you're good at helping people take care of their needs. But this lifetime, you're meant to take care of your own needs. You're meant to yourself.
Interesting.
And your career and your success is where you're going. You already focused on home and family and taking care of them. Now it's kind of like you're meant to be out in the public eye. You're meant to focus on making money, being a businesswoman. You know, there's all these things I see with the Capricorn North Node. So that's kind of your chart. I know we're going to talk a little about it, but I want to share that.
It's exciting. It's really exciting. And I am going through this. Well, we'll talk about my chart towards the end. Let's talk about, can you tell me a little bit about your own spiritual experiences and karmic learning that you have had with your North Node? Like, how has it assisted you in your own development?
So my, I've always loved to read and study and learn, and I would always read stuff about astrology, crystals. I grab a book. I never finish one book. I'm on to the next one, and that's ninth house, just learning, taking classes, getting trained in Reiki and all these things. And I was always doing that in my younger days. And then, as we get older and after we have our first Saturn return, which the Saturn return is a big part of the nodes. It's connected to it because Saturn is the planet of karma and wisdom and responsibility. And it's when it opens us up to our soul mission. So when we're 27 to 30, we have a Saturn return, our first. Before that time, we're living in the past. We're living in our comfortable place, which is our South Node. That's where we feel at home because our soul has already mastered it, right? We don't want to do anything different because it's natural to us, right? So for you, it was being a Cancer. For me, it was being a Taurus. So for me, I didn't like change. I liked stability. I liked comfort. I wanted to be secure. And in my life, I was very sheltered in a way. I didn't have to worry about a lot of things with finances or money. I had my grandparents helped me a lot. But then, as I got older, life is all about change. So I had to get into this Scorpio, which is cutting people out of my life that were unhealthy or that didn't treat me right. Because I would hold on to relationships. I would hold on to the past because Tauruses are very nostalgic. They're very loyal. They're very committed. But they're also stubborn and strong-willed. And I wanted to always do things my way or thought I was right? So I had to learn that I got to let things completely be stripped away and die and be reborn. And so it was a little bit painful with my node because I had to lose things and kind of sacrifice things, which is Scorpio. And I had to get deep and heal my own wounds and realize what my old patterns were that weren't helping me help other people in a deep way and be a healer. So I'm meant to kind of heal people through my word. I'm meant to be a third houser, but in a deep, intense way, a Scorpio way, which is all about psychology and healing and astrology and all these things. And so I try to talk and teach all these spiritual things in a basic way because the third house is basic knowledge. The ninth house is higher knowledge. And so that's what I started realizing is I need to be writing. I need to be doing healing, but I'm getting more, like you said, I got thrown into my writing now, and that opened up, and I feel like I feel at home, like I'm finally doing what I'm meant to do with my books and being on podcast. I love talking to people like you and doing this. It energizes me. And I'm like, okay, this is how you know you do something. Because in my normal job, I'm burned out and completely exhausted when I'm done, right? But when I'm doing this, I'm energized and I'm like inspired. And so my nodes, your nodes are the nodes of family karma. My nodes were the nodes of rebirth, loss, transformation, and change. So most humans don't like that stuff, right? They don't want to change. They don't want to have crisis. So I had a lot of crisis and unexpected events happen with people around me. I've lost a lot of people in my life unexpectedly. not, first was my friend, but then even in my older days. And those, I'm always the one that's able to comfort others when they lose someone. So I do trauma work. I'm a social worker, but I do trauma therapy. I work with sexual assault survivors. And so I've been a victim advocate my whole career. So I work a lot with helping people heal their trauma, which is eighth house Scorpio stuff, and heal myself. So, I'm training Reiki, pranic healing, all the different tools. And I try to bring that into when I help people, teach them self-care, teach them, having different techniques for healing trauma, hypnosis, quantum healing hypnosis. I'm trained in that, had that done on myself, So I do all these things to help me heal, because how am I going to help others if I'm not healed? So a lot of that is my node. And I'll tell you a story. I was going through one of the hardest times in my life. And it was family stuff, and some of my family was struggling real bad, and it devastated me. It was a hard time for my whole family, but especially me, because I was closest to this person. And anyway, I was out running and I was listening to music, and I was just it had been months of me feeling so hurt and just like, why did this happen? And as I'm running, I heard this voice say, "How else would I make you a Scorpio?" That's what I heard. I start laughing, and then I'm crying, because I knew, as an astrologer, I know what that meant. Of course, because how am I ever going to be a Scorpio if I don't have pain and loss in my life? If I don't experience what's like to lose someone or something traumatic, and survive it. That's Scorpio. They're survivors. They're resilient. They get up, they burn out of the ashes like a phoenix bird, reborn into a new person. I had to go through those life experiences. So I understood that's why. I would never be in the Scorpio North Node and do my soul mission if I didn't go through those things. And that's the same for all of us with our North Node. We're meant to go, there's certain triggers, Saturn, the planet of karma, it triggers these events to lead us into our North Node. So after age 31, when we turn 31, we feel our North Node for the first time ever. Before that, we're living in the past lives. We're comfy, cozy. We don't even know why we're here, really. And so we start feeling our chart at age 31 and on. And then we can move towards the node willingly, when we know it and read a book about it, like our book, Astrology is Magical as the Moon, and we can start mastering the North Node traits. And so I started reading everything about Scorpio. And what's funny is you'll attract your node signs into your life. So I always attract Scorpios because I'm meant to be like them. So you may attract Capricorns because you're meant to be like a Capricorn, right? And so you'll draw people that have that know how to do it, so you can try to learn. I remember asking my Scorpio friend, "How do you do it? Like, how do you?" I feel like I feel guilty and like I'm being mean, and I don't want to hurt people's feelings to cut them off. She's like, "They're using you. Just cut them off. Don't talk to." I couldn't do it. I'm like, "But how do you do it?" "You just do it," they said. So Scorpios, they just have it. And so I'm not a Scorpio sun, or moon. So this is just it's very foreign energy. When you have to become this node and it's not your sun sign, it's not your moon sign, etc., it's kind of hard. And so the cool thing is, by the time you have your second Saturn return, it happens age 57 to 60. And I just did a chart today for someone who was, when they were sharing with me their journey, some major things happened when they're 57 to 60. Now they're 78 and they're in their node. So by the time you're out of your Saturn return, the second one, you are doing your soul mission. You're in it. And I've never done a chart for someone over 61 that wasn't in their node after the second Saturn return, because the universe sets it up to where we go there. We either kick and scream and get knocked down a couple times, before we master it, or we can start doing it at a younger age. Parents can get charts for their children. What's their mission? To start, helping nourish and encourage them to do what they came here to do. So, this is a tool of self-awareness that is a powerful thing.
I was just going to say the same thing. It seems almost like a life hack in a way, that if you have this knowledge when you're younger as to what your nodes are, it is almost like a path. I mean, everybody is searching for their path, their soul mission, their, you know, their purpose for being here. And if you have the knowledge of what you are supposed to be born with to experience, it makes your life so it makes your life make sense, you know, a little bit more. Life can be very hard and confusing, and I have been through the ringer myself. Nobody's life is easy. It's filled with trauma and drama and heartache. And I'm, you know, and there's many beautiful things about life as well. But to be able to have the knowledge, like, I think it's so beautiful to have these losses and to have the recognition of your spirit guide saying, you're feeling this because this is your transformation. This is your heartache, but it is your gift. This is your path. This is when you're going to start align with your node in life. Like, as hard as a death or a trauma is to go through, to know that there is purpose behind it and get confirmation of that is a beautiful thing in life. A beautiful thing. I mean, it's amazing. Talking about reincarnation, what are past life energies and how do past life energies affect this life? Do you know a lot about your past lives and your past life energies? And let's talk a little bit about the fact that we do this more than once, guys. This is not our only go around. We do it and do it again.
When I was younger, when I started learning this stuff, I always would say, I don't want to come back again. I always had this thing like, I don't want to come back again. So I had this thing in my mind that I wanted to be perfect. Like, I didn't want to hurt anyone. I didn't want to do anything, or I want to do everything so I don't have to come back to Earth again. And this was my chart. This is some of my 12th house stuff, which I call fallen angels. It's like, you know, we're here and we're like, wait a minute, we're not from here and I don't belong here. And that's how I felt ever since I was little. Like, I'm not from here and I don't belong here. And I didn't want to come back. I don't want to come back. But I realized that as I started studying reincarnation and doing hypnotism and being hypnotized and doing Akashic records and getting past life readings and things, I started out at 19. I had my first past life reading, and what they told me in the soul record matched what my chart is, and and it was so like sharing what I see with others. And I'm very visual. I see images. You know, I love. It took a while to trust myself, right? And so I think that's a big part of it is trusting your abilities and trusting yourself. But I would have feelings. So let me tell you, this story is really cool. So all of us have these inclinations, tendencies, and urges, is what Edgar Cayce called it. And astrology is fact. But we have free will and choice as well, right? So everyone has like deja vu moments at times. To me, those moments are past life memories. They're energies. So when I was I went play basketball, like I told you. I went to a little private Catholic school is where I went for undergraduate. And I played basketball, and I wasn't Catholic, but I started having all these things happen to me, and I felt like I had been there before. Like, when I went to the mass, I feel like I've done this before. And I knew. It's like I knew stuff. And I started studying all about Catholicism. And I was a minor in religion, philosophy when I was in undergrad in psychology and stuff. And I was just loving, and I knew like I'd been there. Well, I almost became a nun. And I'm not even Catholic. Okay. Yes. And this whole thing was from a past life. And I finally figured it out. Yes, because I remembered it finally, because I kept thinking I need to dedicate my life to God. You know, I'm going to do this. And I'm like, wait a minute, I want to get married and have kids someday. But I was going through this struggle of God is wanting me to, like, I'm meant to be a nun. And I was going to I got all these orders of nuns sent me their brochure, and I was looking at all this stuff. And on this one brochure, there's a picture of a black and white picture of a nun. And I knew her. It's like when I looked at her face, it gave me chills. Like, I'm like, I know this person. And I thought they're going to think I'm crazy. I put it away. It bothered me. I'm like, I know this person. And then I was getting, I woke up around the same time, and I had a back injury. Like I couldn't move my shoulder. Like I had something physically wrong. So I was in the School of Metaphysics at the time, and I had a teacher that did the energy work and stuff with us. So I was like what, 19, I don't know, 20. And I went in and he was doing the energy work. And when I was, relaxing, I saw this whole scene where I was hiding in a cave with nuns. And I was younger. I was maybe 13. And there were these nuns, and I could see very clearly, and we were hiding from soldiers. There was soldiers out there, and they weren't good. And I knew that we were in danger. And when we came out, I saw the soldiers' uniforms. I can still see in my head what they look like. And the one soldier, they killed the nuns, some of the nuns in front of me. And then they said, run. The soldier let me go. And I had guilt from that. I started bawling, and I released whatever. And I had this whole thing where I bawled my eyes. I'm like, was that a past life memory? The first time I'd had a past life memory when I was having energy healing. And I went back to the campus. Okay, I'm going to a Catholic school. Okay. I had this whole thing happen. I go back to the campus. I'm in the dorm. I go down, and they said it's the 50th anniversary or something of the Sisters of St. Joseph of Carondelet. It was like the sisters that founded Fontbonne in St. Louis. And they were from France. They came from France and all this stuff. Oh, so I am in there, and they're walking around with the nuns in full havoc, like telling the story of the Sisters of St. Joseph, how they hid in cave. And some of them were murdered. And I got
oh my God,
freaked out. I was like, that's the first time I started believing in reincarnation. And then I bought books, Reincarnation for the Christian by St. Jerome. I mean, I bought all these books. And St. Jerome taught reincarnation in the Catholic Church, but they made him take it out. It was in the teachings. And then the Nicene Creed created the Catholic Bible, which has different books than the Protestant Bible, So it's just like there's all this knowledge that we weren't told, but he believed in reincarnation. The Catholic Church didn't used to be against it, but then it was like control the knowledge kind of thing, I think.
Yes. It really is very much about controlling knowledge and not allowing us to understand that there is more to us than we think, and that we are much more powerful than we think, that we are capable of co-creating our reality through our energy and our vibrations and what we align with. All of that knowledge has been taken away from us. So we are much more easily managed, in my opinion. So we do feel helpless. So we do feel lost. So we do look to somebody else for guidance. One of the things about religion that I am not on board with, probably because I don't like authority, is the hierarchy. The fact that someone else knows better, knows more, is closer to God. I need to move through that person in order to get to heaven. All of that, you have to believe your elders, believe your pastor, believe your priest, defer to their counsel. I never thought that was
normal.
Going to,
it's like the Catholic Church priest abuse scandal. All these priests were sexually abusing children, and they hid it, and it's like they're a human being. And then I had my daughter in Catholic school. I tell a little funny story because she's very much like you. She is questions things. She's eccentric. She wants to be a different drummer. She's an artistic creative. I had her in Catholic school, and she said, "Mom, and she was, I did it really because of small classes. So she, was in Catholic school, and she said, Mom, I don't believe why do I have to pray to Mary for Jesus and God to hear my prayers? I don't believe that. I shouldn't have to go through Mary." That's what she said to me. And I said, absolutely. You don't have to. She goes, I can pray right directly to God. I said, yeah. So she already knew. And it's that hierarchy, they pray to Mary, pray to Mary. Mary takes your prayers, or the priest has direct access, but you don't, and the kingdom of heaven is within you, like Jesus said.
Yes. Mm-hmm. We all are a part of God. We all have access to that consciousness, to that energy, to that,
Yeah.
we are all connected. We are all so much more connected than we want to think. We like to think we're not, but we are all connected. We are here to learn to be more open, more compassionate, more conscious, and more loving and accepting and less judgmental and less, I often say on this show, we are all just fellow travelers to the grave. We're all here to experience our own sense of soul purpose, our own passions, our own journey. And my journey has nothing to do with we are all here on our own journey for sure.
Absolutely.
So I completely believe that, and I have sat in a reading with somebody who told me about a prior life that I had that informed a lot of who I am in this life.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'll tell the abbreviated story. I lived in Germany as a young boy, and I was in an orphanage. And in this orphanage, there was another young boy who got picked on a lot because he was sick. He was sickly. He had a stomach ailment, and I took care of him. I made sure nobody picked on him. I made sure he ate. I made sure he would not have survived without me there.
Wow.
And one day I was adopted, and I left the orphanage, and I left that boy behind, and I lived the rest of my life with guilt, knowing that every single joy I had, every single opportunity I had, everything I had, that boy that I left in the orphanage behind with no help. And I lived the rest of my life in guilt, feeling guilt. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it kind of informs a little bit of who I am today. I have always, even when I was a child in elementary school, I never allowed anybody to get picked on around me.
Yeah.
There was somebody doing something untoward to another kid. I was always the one stepping in and saying, we're not, I was a tough little, I was not to be messed with when I was a kid either. So, but, moving on, what advice can you give to other people that want to try and embrace figuring out their soul purpose through their nodes, their houses, and getting a more in-depth understanding that astrology can inform you of so much more than you would ever think? And I mean, I've learned so much from this conversation, from the book. It is so much more layered and so much more complex than you really ever growing up what I thought astrology was. But what advice should you be giving people about they really want to be informed of what their soul purpose is? I mean, so helpful.
If you want to know what your soul purpose is, you need to do your basic birth chart. So that's a good start. You can go to astro.com. There's a lot of free sites out there that you can get the wheel. And then, you can reach out, to me or Bernie. My website's carmenturnerschott.com. And Bernie's is bernieashman.com. And, we can do a session, and we can tell you where your north node, south node is. There's sites that, you can look it up. Once you print it, you can see the headphone symbol in the chart and then the south node, what house it's in. And you can get our book and start looking things up. So, the sun is just one little part of your personality. It's just the outer personality you show. The moon sign is just as important as your sun sign. And that's your inner emotional nature, how you intuitively react, how you find emotional fulfillment, how you find happiness is the moon sign. And then the rising sign is how you relate to stress and in many areas of life and how people perceive you when they first meet you. So every placement in astrology is important to know. And just start at the basic. Get your birth wheel, make sure you get your accurate time because the time can change things. And when you start getting an astrology consultation with someone, I recommend start out with the personality consultation or a psychological consultation is what I do. So I talk about your personality, your mission, your strengths, your relationships, different talents and things. And what that does is it validates you. why astrology is good is that it'll validate what you already know about yourself. So if you don't have the correct time, I'll know. Because if I do a chart for someone, well, my mother says between 2 and 4. I'm like, yeah, is this resonating? No. And it's a time issue. Once I fix it, oh, this is me. You will know that it's true. It's not like, they're like, well, how do you know that? Because it's energy. I believe astrology is energy, and it's the energy of the universe that impacts us. Our soul, we're a soul, we're not a body. Our soul came into the physical realm at the place, moment, date, time, place of where we wanted to be. That's why twins even have different birth chart. They can be very similar, but then the moon sign changes every 2 or 3 days. So emotionally, you can have 2 twins that are identical, and emotionally, they're completely different. And so I see that. So it's important to have your time, but you can always, I recommend getting your chart done by an astrologer, a psychological counseling assessment, and go from there. And then there's tons of books out there on the basics that you can learn. And there's classes and things like that. But you should at least have your birth chart done at least once to get the experience of it.
Absolutely. What can you tell us about each of the node sign combinations? What can you share with us?
So Aries, Libra nodes, they are the nodes of relationships, relationship karma. So Aries, Libra nodes are learning how to balance, compromise the partner, other people's needs with their own needs, with their own goals, with their own wants and desires. So it's like selfishness versus unselfishness, boldness versus peacemaker, right? Giving in to people. So they're learning about relationships. So these nodes, Aries, Libra nodes, often have struggles in relationships, intimate relationships. Many of them, typically, I'll say 99% of the time, have more than one marriage if they marry. Sometimes they marry young, and they often divorce, and they get remarried. And they have challenges with relationships, or they may not meet a partner like they want to, but they just don't find anyone that they can trust. So it can manifest in different ways, but it's always their goal is to balance, having a partner and compromising with what their needs are, and then their own goal. So that's their lesson. And then Taurus, Scorpio nodes are the nodes of forgiveness, letting go, rebirth, healing, sacrifice, and it's transformational nodes, Taurus, Scorpio nodes, getting very deep and allowing yourself to transform and change your beliefs, your emotions, your everything about yourself. And then Gemini, Sag are the nodes of knowledge. They seek knowledge. They seek travel, experience, adventure. So it's all about learning things. Typically, learning religions, different languages, different cultures. They're interested in all those things. And history and higher learning and communication, sharing knowledge. That's big for them. Writing, teaching. Cancer, Capricorn are the family karma nodes. They are the nodes nurturing, of the nodes of home and family, balancing that with your career, with the public, with your work. So it's like Capricorns want to work and provide and be successful. Cancers want to nurture, mother, take care of the home and family. So you have a pull between the needs of your family. Could be your parents, could be your childhood roots, could be your own spouse, your own partner, your own children, or whoever you live with. If you're not married, it could be whoever your companion is. And you have this challenge of taking care of everybody else, or focusing on what your goals are for career success. So that's those nodes. Leo, Aquarius nodes, they're all about expressing self-expression. They're about, Leos want to be creative. They want to be on stage. They want to be recognized. They want to be appreciated. They want to be loved. They're artistic. They're entertainers. They're creative, artists, musicians, all this. And then Aquarians are rebels. They're rebellious. They question tradition. They question authority. They're innovative. They're imaginative. They're also creative. So every polar opposite sign is what we call them, has similar traits. They all share similar traits, and they're all a compatible element. So if you think about it, in nature, air and fire go together because air helps fire grow. Earth and water go together. So that if you can notice this pattern in the node that I'm talking about, because Aries is fire, Libra is air, Taurus is earth, Scorpio is water, Gemini is air, Sag is fire, Cancer is water, Capricorn's earth, Leo is fire, Aquarius is air. And then we have Virgo, which is earth, and Pisces nodes, which is water. Virgo Pisces people are balancing practical service and spiritual service. So it's about finding a balance between why am I here on this earth, connecting to a higher power and finding a spiritual path, and also self-care, solitude, withdrawing from the world, with also having to be paying bills, eating, sleeping, being able to survive in the mundane, real, practical world, and having a routine, having structure, being organized, getting up to go to work. They're balancing that with connecting to the meaning of life. So, and you see the challenge with those nodes. Some nodes are a little harder than others. Some node patterns. And I'll tell you the top 3 nodes that I think are the most difficult for people. And it's because we don't like change. And it's because they each have their own intricate energy that makes it a little harder for us as humans, right? Aries, Libra, because relationships and love and all that is a big deal to people. So those nodes tend to be very challenging for people. And then the Taurus, Scorpio node, because there's a lot of loss, a lot of change, a lot of crisis, right? Bouncing crisis with stability, right? And then the Virgo Pisces nodes are pretty challenging too at times because, they can be perfectionist and have high standards and be hard on themselves, worriers, overanalyze their emotions. So they're learning to feel their emotions and trust their gut instincts, and not be so intellectual about things. So, those are the top 3 that I find that people often, they'll tell me, I'm like, you're meant to relax. You're meant to stop working so hard. But I feel like I'm lazy. Everyone has their node energy that comes out in a counseling session. And it's very basic. It's very practical. And I always say, just anyone can learn astrology. And my saying is astrology can help you heal, transform, and become more resilient as a person.
I mean, I never understood the depths to which astrology can inform your soul life's purpose. I never understood that until I read your book. And it makes so much sense. And I highly encourage people to go out and do this because it will support you in who you are in this world. And it will give you so much information and confirmation of who you are and an understanding of who you are and what you're doing here. And that's so important, especially in today's world that is becoming increasingly distracted, hard. There's so much fear and there's many people that are just lost out there. And to give people something that they can understand that will allow them to move forward with more knowledge about who they are in this world is a gift to many people. So please, ladies and gentlemen, do yourself a favor and pick up this book. It will help you understand so much more about what we are all doing here. And, I think being a human on this planet is so much more magical and so much more complex than we could ever understand. We just are not even asking those questions anymore, it seems, Why don't we start wrapping things up with a little bit about my charts? How do you feel about that?
So,
what do you think?
You got a lot of Uranus energy in your soul. So you have the sun, your main identity. You have the moon, your emotional nature. You have Mercury, which is how you think, how you communicate, all in Aquarius. And you have it in the house of home and family, the 4th house. So that's where your rebellious and your question of authority and your awakening happen because Uranus rules Aquarius. The planet Uranus is all about shocking people, changing beliefs, expanding your knowledge, being innovative, being futuristic, being creative, asking why. But why do we have to do it that way? Can we do it another way? You know, that's Aquarius energy. And Aquarius are also humanitarian. They love having they have a lot of acquaintances. They like to network and socialize with people. They're known to be friendly. They care about people, but they can help people in a detached way. Like you're able to detach emotionally and not always take on everybody's problems. You're able to say, okay, listen, you need to do this, this, and this. You have a very good way of telling people what they need to hear without hurting their feelings, but being direct with them. And that's Aquarius. And that's also your Mars and Sagittarius, because Mars and Sagittarius in the second house tells me that you are, that's also the free spirit, adventure, independent, freedom loving, but also straightforward and direct and honest. You can't
very authentic.
Yeah, you can't lie. You if someone asks you something, you're like, do you really want to know? And you'll tell them. This is why I like a Sagittarius energy. And Mars is a powerful place to have, a powerful planet to have in Sagittarius. And then guess what? You got right on the ascendant, Uranus, which is Aquarius energy. And so it makes you very creative and very artistic and very drawn to unique, controversial topics and things like that. You're drawn to things that aren't normal. They're considered abnormal or, eccentric, different. And you like people that are different. You're not attracted to normal, clean cut people. You might attract people that are more practical, more, grounded, down to earth people, but you get bored with that. Like you need excitement and you need someone that'll make you laugh. That's also kind of a free spirit, willing to go and do things and wing it and doesn't want to control you, doesn't be possessive. You can't handle jealousy, all this stuff. But you can attract kind of Aries people that are kind of entrepreneurs, a little bit self-centered, a little bit of a temper, passionate, assertive people. You can attract Aries because that's the sign on your relationship house, on your cusp, is Aries and Aries and Taurus energy is what you tend to attract, right? In relationships, which is that's very different energy than your Aquarius energy, right? And then your Venus is in Capricorn. And that tells me that when you love, you have high standards for relationship partners. You can be a little, not to say picky, but they need to follow and be a certain way for you to want to date someone. Like you can be friends with them. Like you have a lot of friends and acquaintances, but for you to be intimate with someone, you have certain, like a checklist of things you need them to be. And you're like, no, I don't like it. Not going to go. So you're, very practical and realistic in love. And you want someone that's successful too, that can provide and be loyal and committed. And that's Capricorn, very committed in relationships. Even though you're a free spirit and got that, you expect loyalty if you are in a agreement with someone or dating or whatever, and
probably why I'm going to be single for a long time.
Well, and I'll tell you, look at your chart, I don't know your whole life story or anything with that, but I would tell you, if I did your chart as a client, I would say that I recommend that you don't have to marry and have a piece of paper to be in a relationship. You probably do best living with someone and just live with someone, but don't make it official, because if you make it like you'll feel like you're trapped. Like you got to feel like, this is a choice you make and you can change if you need to. That's your vibe, right? And so definitely living with someone I could see you doing, but you need to always feel that they give you your freedom and space to be who you are and to be yourself and be social and spend time with other people and things like that. I also see, did you ever act, or were you into theater or acting or anything like that?
I did. I sang in college. I was in show
Yeah.
choir. I can sing.
Yes.
I can do that kind of
That
stuff. Yeah.
you got Leo on your 10th house. It's like you shine and you have a lot of creative talent that people that you're recognized for in your life. And that I see that there. And then the Libra rising gives you, a sense of beauty, art. You love music, you love peace and harmony in your life as well. You need that balance because your rising sign is Libra. And so people are very drawn to you. They feel that you're kind and that you're a good listener and that you adapt, you're calm influence for people when they first meet you, your energy kind of attract very, very pretty, very, very friendly, calm, serene people. You always kind of see both sides of an issue. So you're always able to be a peacemaker, a mediator, a negotiator when people are in conflict. Because like, wait a minute, but I can understand their point of view. Sometimes people may see you're indecisive, but you're not really being indecisive. You just don't want to pick either side because you can see the good in both, right? And that's kind of the
Yep.
yeah. That's what I see right off.
Does it say anything with regards to my health? Do you have any insights on my health?
Yes. So
for my chart.
So I'm curious because you have the asteroid Chiron in the 6th house of health. So wherever Chiron is where we have a wound. And it's where we're meant to heal our wound. And so that past life story you shared makes sense in a way, but it also shows that you could struggle with your own health. And this is why, because you can be very sensitive to the environment. So you could have food allergies, be allergic to certain things that affect your health. Now, I know you mentioned the stomach. I don't know if you have stomach issues, but what I'm seeing is head stuff too, like headaches, migraines, things with the brain, things with
meningitis,
the brain, because that's Aries rules the brain. Chiron in Aries. I have Chiron in Aries as well, but mine's in the 8th house. So I get migraines and I lose my vision. I get these little, the kaleidoscope when I'm stressed or I can't, it's no rhyme or reason when it started happening again after years, just like a month ago. And I had to go get checked and everything. And it's Aries because Aries rules the brain, the eyes, the head, everything. So anything that, any illnesses affect the brain, in the nervous system. So that's why I think you have that. That's your vulnerable, your vulnerable area. We all have a vulnerable area. Medical astrology is it's a whole science. I mean, we could spend a whole show talking about medical astrology, but medical astrology, in all of modern medicine was started with astrology. So Hippocrates was an astrologer. He is the one that said a physician without knowledge of astrology is not a physician, but a fool, quote. And in old medical books, you'll see the image of a man and you'll see the symbols of the zodiac on parts of the body in old medical books. That's because in the ancient times, that's how they diagnosed illnesses was based on your astrology chart, based on astrology.
Fascinating. Yeah. I mean, we really do medicine wrong these days, don't we? I mean, I know. I don't even know what we're doing with Western medicine these days. And unless they can give you a pill to fix you, they're just not interested in doing anything else. It's really a sad state of affairs.
Want to make you sick so they can.
We are no longer healing.
Want to get
it's a for-profit business, and they just want to put you on a pill that they're going to have, that you're going to be on forever, and they're going to charge you an astronomical amount of and you're just covering up symptoms. Yeah. You never get to heal. There is no healing in Western medicine. No. I haven't seen it. Unless you need a heart transplant or you get a broken arm or something like that. But if you have autoimmune disease or something of that nature and you are seeking health, healing, it is awfully hard to find it these days.
It is. And anything you can do, like anything alternative medicine would benefit you. And herbs and diet and of course, reducing stress is a big one because stress is when illnesses start manifesting our vulnerable areas. And then it's also, Aries is the sign on your 6th house of health. That's why it's anything with the brain and head and all that stuff. Now, some people have heart things, some people have female reproductive things, and it's really based on the chart can show a lot. I mean, like I said, we could have a whole show about it. Well,
Yeah. I mean, I'll say one last final thing and then we'll start wrapping this up. I appreciate your time, by the way. I've been having issues with my health and I get symptoms and I am telling you, I don't know you very well, and I'm telling the whole podcast world this, but one of the only times I am just symptom free is when I am interviewing a guest and I'm on my podcast for some reason. And I've been told by other spiritual people, it is because when I am sitting here doing this, having these conversations, that I am in alignment.
Yes.
And when I am off doing my other job, which is super stressful, super not in alignment with who I am, I get sick. And isn't that fascinating?
Yeah.
I mean, it really speaks to so much about what and who we are. I'm just fascinated by the entire thing.
And that's true. When you're talking to people, when you're doing the show, you're expressing yourself, you're expressing your emotions, you're doing that. And that's what helps us heal too, is feeling our emotions and processing our emotions. And a lot of the stuff that happens is kind of meant to happen to get us where we're supposed to go, And sometimes I feel like when I've had health crisis and things, it's like been to wake me up a little bit. And lately I've been having it happen with my migraines and my eyes. Like I'll wake up with it and I don't even have a headache. And they're like, "Oh, it's occipital migraines." I had a neurologist do a CAT scan years ago because I would have it happen if I got overheated. Sometimes they're like, it could be if I didn't have caffeine or if I traveled. I mean, it was always something with my head, and my moon is in Aries. My Chiron is in Aries. My Jupiter's in Aries, and they're all in the 8th house, which is I tend to repress all my stress and all my emotions. And I just keep going, it's the 8th house thing. And then it manifests with headaches and eye issues and all that. I clench my teeth, my throat. It's my vulnerable area. And I know, okay, I need to start listening to myself. And a lot of it is doing whatever makes you feel better, finding that thing. And if this is what takes that, and and that's the thing about illness too, is that people can't, if you don't have something on the outside physically that people can see that's wrong. That's what happened to me. There was a time I thought I had autoimmune disease as well, lupus, and it's when I had the vision thing happening and they tested me and all that, said I didn't have the autoimmune, but I still worry that I might have an autoimmune and they misdiagnosed me. I really do, because now that's happening again, I'm like, something's weird with my eyes. And so I believe in trusting your own intuition about your body, but it's so hard when your family and friends, when you're in pain and you're hurting. Like I had a car accident and I'd hurt my sciatic nerve in my back really bad. And I look fine on the outside, and people just expect you to be you and be in a good mood and be friendly and be active when you're in pain. They can't see your pain or your symptoms. And you feel alone. Right. It's like, I don't feel good, but they don't, but you look fine. You look like you're young and fine, and they don't know how bad you feel. And they judge it, unless they can see the wound or see the, it's like they don't know.
The blood rushing out of your head from
I'm like, I wish I could just let you get a headache right now or give you my what's going on with me. And they just, until someone has something happen to them in their health and they have the physical pain or the weird symptoms, then they start to have compassion and empathy for other people.
It's really a travesty that we as humans have to actually either experience something for ourselves. We're so incapable of just taking a beat and saying, I wonder what life is from their perspective, and trying to understand each other. We need to do more of that. And I also, final point, completely agree with you. I know that my illness was what allowed me to step on my path and start seeking and start opening. And I know that I have more to learn, and I am absolutely going to heal entirely. I am on that journey, and I'm going to take everyone with me, but I know my healing is in
I love it.
process. I know it.
Good for you. I love it.
I absolutely enjoy you so much, Carmen. Like, I could talk to you for hours. I find the astrology aspect fascinating and informative, and I really hope everyone goes out and picks up your book, Astrology's Magical Nodes of the Moon, Releasing the Past and Embracing Your Future. It really can inform you so much as to what and who you are. Pick it up. I will leave it in the show
Okay.
notes. And can you get it on Amazon and everywhere?
Amazon, Barnes and Noble. And you can visit my site, CarmenTurner-Schott.com. And I have a books page, and it'll take, if you click the book is on my homepage, it'll take you right to where you can order it.
And can people reach out to you for a reading and a birth chart reading and everything?
Yes, if you go to my website, I have a free gift on there, actually, a new moon manifestation guide on my homepage you can download. And then I have a 12th house little PDF, a free gift. You sign up for my newsletter and you can get notified of all my classes. And if you want me just to know where your nodes are, contact me through my site and send me your birth info, and I can tell you where your nodes are. And even if you don't want to pay for a full consult with me, I'm more than welcome to do your chart, at least get you your wheel, tell you where your nodes are. I'm happy to do that for people that are listening. So
I highly encourage people to reach out and do that. It can help you more than you would even imagine. On that note, guys, I'm going to thank Carmen Turner-Schott for being a part of my show today. It was beautiful. We will see you on the next episode of F.A.T.E. Until then, guys, journey well, everyone. Thank you, Carmen.
thank you.
Bye-bye. Alrighty, gang. That is a wrap on this episode of F.A.T.E. From Atheism to Enlightenment. I would really like to thank Carmen for coming on the show. I adore her. I don't know if it's because we both have that Midwest background. We both grew up in the Midwest. We grew up in the church, but I just loved her energy. I could have talked to her forever. And I hopefully will have her back on the show at some point, maybe to promote a new book, or just maybe we'll get into medical astrology. That was getting really interesting towards the end of the show. So, and just FYI, my health issues do reside in my brain, folks. So she was spot on. That is the source of my health issues, my brain. And I thought it was just mystifying and mystical that she was able to pull that out of my chart, that would be my Achilles heel, to so to speak. I highly recommend everyone doing their birth chart and figuring out what house your nodes are in, and be able to set a better course for your life and figure out maybe why you're attracted to the people you're attracted to, um, maybe why you have the hobbies that you have, why you are drawn to certain things, and try and figure out what your sole purpose is here. It is, like I said in the show, a life hack of sorts that will be able to give you a much better understanding of who you are and what you're doing here. I certainly had information through reading that book that I never would have otherwise. And I was kind of blown away at the accuracy and the depth to which you could really learn about who we are. I, I mean, it really, it almost to me allows me to have even less judgment towards someone else, because it feels to me that we're kind of born here to have certain characteristics, to feel certain biases based on our charts and who we are, and granted, our environment certainly can mold us and change us as from children to adulthood. But I do believe we are born a certain way. And I know that my parents would have loved to have changed who I was when I was a kid. I was not easy to raise because I do not like authority. I don't like to be told what to do. And I was a terror for my parents, staying out all night, couldn't get me under control, couldn't rein me in. There wasn't really anything that I wouldn't do. Still to this day, I'm very much informed that way. But I don't know. I thought it was fascinating. I thought Carmen was magical, and I hope she comes back on the show. Pick up her book by Carmen Schott and Bernie Ashman. It is Astrology's Magical Nodes of the Moon. Get your birth chart done and start learning about who you are. I absolutely loved this episode, and I'm hoping that you continue to journey with me, gang. I'm enjoying bringing you different concepts that are hopefully opening your mind and maybe changing some of your belief systems in a way that are going to let you figure out your soul purpose, like today. Like, go out there and figure out what you're meant to be doing. Find that passion that really makes you fill that well inside. That's what I say. I can be reached on Instagram, guys. Go ahead and follow me at F.A.T.E. podcast. Follow me. If you are enjoying the show, you're liking what I'm saying, tell a friend, subscribe, share it. I want to put it out to as many people as possible. I want to keep continuing the show, bringing you interesting stories of people learning about their own soul purpose, their spiritual journeys, their abilities, whether it be mediums, psychics, or otherwise. We are much more powerful than we think we are. And I'm going to keep bringing you as many people as possible that are going to enlighten you and broaden your horizons and get you to think outside of that mainstream box. And I hope you're enjoying it. With that, gang, that is a wrap on this episode of Fate, from atheism to enlightenment. I will see you next week. My name is Christy Busby, and as always, welcome to your fate, everyone. I'll see you next week. Bye.